have a transportation group.
All right. Good morning, everybody. I'd like to welcome you all to our Caltrans, our Carson to the Sea RFP pre-proposal meeting. I want to thank you all for hopping online. The great majority of you have. As I mentioned before, if you could take the time to put the name of your firm at the end of your name, that would be very helpful for us so we can keep score of who's who. And you're welcome to keep yourselves on mute until we get to the Q&A section of the meeting. I'm going to introduce our team here at the COG first. Just acknowledge also that we have two consulting firms here who have decided to come in person. One young lady from CRA and the other from Kimley Horn. So they are here in person. So I'm going to introduce myself and then pass the baton to our team. So my name is Aaron Baum. I'm a senior project manager here at the COG. All things including mobility, transportation, technology, and senior citizen programming here. So a little bit of everything from me. Ann?
Hi, everyone. I'm Ann Tsai. I'm a project coordinator. I work on our mobility programs and Measure R&M transportation programs.
Shannon?
Hi, everyone. Shannon Heffernan. I'm a contract planner with South Bay Cities COG, and I will be working on this project.
Hi, everyone. I don't know if you can see me on the camera. You can see it waving now, but I'm Jake Romoff. I'm a project coordinator at the South Bay Cities. I work on the local travel network, some transportation initiatives, as well as digital projects.
Fantastic, thank you. Those are the members of our staff team supporting this particular project and this particular grant. I'm going to turn it over now to my colleagues. We're going to do a short little presentation on what we've been up to here in the South Bay for the last many years and how we've come to acknowledge and have you at the table here as potentially continuing on in support of our work. So Jake, you want to kick it off?
Sure thing. So this project is based off of, or this RFP is based off of a COG project called the Local Travel Network. So what is the South Bay Local Travel Network? So it's a 243-mile network of safe routes for residents to reach local destinations using micromobility devices. These routes are on slow speed streets. Our maximum speed limit that we allow to be compatible with the route is 35 miles per hour. They're also low volume streets. So it's about taking micromobility traffic and getting it off the main arterials to decrease congestion, increase safety, and provide a wayfinding system. And do you want to cover this then?
Sure. So a little background on how we got here. As the South Bay COG, we complete climate action plans for each of our member cities, conducting greenhouse gas emissions inventories. And we study the travel behaviors of people living in this subregion. One of the pilot programs that we completed over a decade ago now was the LUV, Local Use Vehicle Pilot Program, where we really studied how people were getting around in the South Bay by loaning one of those love vehicles, pictured above in the slide, to households on a volunteer basis. We stuck a GPS to this vehicle and then their regular household vehicle. And then we were able to gather a ton of trip data from that. Next slide. So from all of our research over the years, we have several key findings. That first, transportation is the largest source of greenhouse gas emissions in the South Bay, and that 70% of car trips are under 3 miles, so that people are not traveling very far. And so for those local trips, local use vehicles or slow speed micromobility vehicles can accommodate many of these short trips. And so from that, we identified an opportunity to encourage the personal ownership of micromobility vehicles to improve road safety for those local trips, providing several benefits to South Bay residents, including slowing down the traffic for everybody, reducing congestion on the road by right-sizing our vehicles. And then these vehicles, they don't take much energy to charge, so they reduce electricity costs for households and travel costs, and they're zero emission, and they can potentially also replace that extra household vehicles, that second, third, fourth car that's sitting in the garage.
So the main attributes and amenities of the network is the first one, as I mentioned, 25 mph speed limit streets. That is the gold standard. We accept streets up to 35 mph, but the key is to really keep it off those high-speed streets. Additionally, there'll be striped lanes or sharrows as wayfinding. And then in the third image, you can see that is an example of one of our rolling turtle wayfinding signage. That is taken in El Segundo, where the network is currently implemented. And these signs not only alert drivers as well as micromobility riders that they're on the local travel network, it also provides wayfinding to key destinations. This is also partnered with micromobility parking and charging. This is something we are currently exploring of how we can provide further incentives at key destinations to use micromobility to get there. And then the last one, probably the most important, is direction to protected intersections. Especially in the South Bay, we have many high-speed arterials and we're bisected by many highways. So making sure that micromobility is directed to areas with a light, a stop sign, or a specified bike crossing is a key attribute of the network. We do not cross any unprotected intersections. So that all accumulates in this, the Caltrans Gap Corridor Study. So Caltrans, so Carson is currently in the process of their funding agreement with Measure M. So the network is coming to Carson. However, Carson is positioned as somewhat of an island. There's not many streets lower than 35 mph that get you out of the city. And so these yellow streets, as you see on the map, have been identified as gap segments that might be potential candidates to connect the islands within and without and outside of Carson. So what this study would include is corridor planning to study to build local use vehicle lane infrastructure. It'll address the speed connectivity issues in Carson, Lomita, and San Pedro. Again, this project is called Carson to the Sea. So really getting the LTN from Carson all the way down to the San Pedro area by the water is the ultimate goal. And then this grant will also include community micromobility pop-up and ride and drive events. Again, as Anne mentioned earlier, one of the key objectives of this grant is to replace that second, third, fourth car. And so education and outreach regarding the applications of micromobility and the infrastructure that's being built or already in place to support them is going to be vital to that adoption. And Aaron, that is our LTN brief.
Thank you very much, Anne and Jake. Really appreciate it. That's a pretty high level description of what we've been up to for the last many years. And I want to bring your sort of focus us now back to the RFP and go through, if you will, the timeline, the sort of important dates and schedules. Jake, can you pull that up for us on at your end? Okay. There we go. Okay, real quickly, we're gonna go through this and then we're gonna drop down and get to you and your questions. I'm gonna sort of tease you with a question that we found ourselves just recently. I would call it a typo. And hopefully we can sort of preempt that question in advance. The RFP was released on the 21st. And here you are at the pre-proposal meeting, all bright-eyed and shiny and interested. The deadline to submit questions is March 10th. So it's a very short turnaround here. We hope you'll take the time. You will have already taken the time to read in detail the RFP, and any questions that you have outside of this particular pre-proposal meeting should be addressed to info@southbaycities.org. It would be very helpful to us in the subject line if you put questions the Caltrans RFP. That way we can quickly identify that it's a question and get to it. All questions, okay, will be answered, okay, and posted back to our our South Bay COG Opportunities website where this RFP was originally posted. They will be set up in a Q&A kind of format. Similarly, from this meeting, we'll take questions and answers and post these as well. So these will go up probably tomorrow after we sort of collate them and put them together in a nice package. You can go back and reference them by clicking on a link, a hyperlink that will state questions posed at pre-proposal meeting. Or something similar to that. The big important date is the proposals are due Friday, March 21st at 4 p.m. Okay, that is the correct time. It's not the close of business, but it's a little bit before that, 4 p.m. There is a typo in the RFP if you read far enough back into it that states 5 p.m. So the correct time for submission, deadline submission, is 4 p.m. We will be posting an addendum on our site that reflects that change, and that will go up probably today. After we take the time to read your great proposals, you or a subset of you will be notified of consultant interviews. The process will be that we will have a short list for folks to actually come in person and interview with us. Those interviews will take place on the week of April 7th, exact day and time to be determined. So that's about as clear as I can be on that. We're going to try to give you as much notice as possible following the review of the proposals. And then recommendations for moving forward. Our process here is that the consultant interviews will result in a recommendation that will go to our steering committee the second Tuesday of the month of April. Following that recommendation, we'll go to the board for approval of the contract. And so the date of the steering committee is on the 14th. That will become public information for everyone to see. And then we will move forward with the sort of contract execution between that time and when our board meets on April 28th. It's our goal to have everything sort of buttoned up and ready to rock and roll by the end of the month. In all likelihood, it may be the early May, but we work here on the hope and for a very fast turnaround and to get us rocking and rolling into this project by literally the end of April. Those are the sort of important days and times. And what I'd like to do now is entertain any questions you might have about the procurement schedule. Let's focus there first, get that out of the way. So if you have a question about this, please let us know. We're going to sort of try to monitor a very large group of you. Or you can unmute yourself and just say, hey, my name is, and your company, and we will recognize you. Okay. I am not seeing anybody here with their hands raised or making a big noise at this point. So I'm going to open this up to the floor virtually and within our room here. For those of you that have questions, and I think what I'd like to do is start online and then we'll kick it back to you here and see whether we can do that. I'm going to change the view here to side-by-side speaker.
Gallery, maybe?
Gallery? Okay, gallery. Let's go gallery. And Jake, you want to not share? Okay. There you all are. Fantastic. Without further ado, if you could put up your little icon that says I'm raising my hand, let's try it that way to start with, and we'll recognize you. Please state your name, your company, and your question. Oh my, are you kidding me? Did I just write the best RP in the world? Oh, okay. Sarah, please introduce yourself and state your question.
Hi, everyone. This is Sarah McMenemy from Nelson Nygaard. Thank you so much for holding this meeting today and giving us all this background. We were wondering if you could provide a little bit more information on the expectation for the engineering drawings. So like what percent you're looking for those drawings.
Thank you, Sarah. That's a great question. Let me preface the technical piece of this in sort of the context of what we're trying to do in terms of deliverables. The work that you all will be proposing, okay, is to support respective Measure M applications by the cities named or called out in this RFP. So what we want is sort of preliminary engineering details and drawings, probably up to 30%, which we can build upon in PS&E for construction. Measure M, as you all know, probably is our construction funds to support these kinds of projects. But we need a plan to get us to the sort of more detailed plan that cities could iterate moving forward. So typically we understand that to be about 30%. Does that answer your question?
Yes, that's perfect. Thank you so much.
Fantastic. Aaron, I think your hand was up as well just a moment ago.
Yes, Sarah asked the exact question that I was going to ask, so thank you.
You're all of like mind and you're all engineers. Beautiful. Other questions in the room? Let's go to the room here.
Question was asked.
Oh, question was asked. Okay. Other questions I can support or we can help support. Marco?
Hey, sorry, I can't find my hand raise button.
That's okay. I know you're leaning forward. Go ahead.
All right. Will Caltrans be participating in the selection of the consultant? And then follow up. I know you're on a fast time frame. Do they need to get involved in in the negotiations and contracting that may slow things down?
Thank you, Marco. No, Caltrans will not be participating in the selection of our consultants to support this project. This is entirely a COG, our South Bay City's COG process. Does that answer your question? Fantastic. Other questions? Okay. We are open to anything you have on the table right now. Marco, go ahead.
Follow up on that one then. It is I think this is a Caltrans grant though, so does it require FAR rates, federal adjusted rates?
It's a good question. I, you know what?
We could look into that.
I think we'll look into that and we'll post it for you. We've never actually had to deal with that specificity in terms of budget or you know, or how the types of rates that you would have to provide this support. So we'll look into that and then we will post that for you. Okay? Again, just a little more information. Again, to be clear, we'll post a final on this. We needed typically fully loaded rates from your firms to support this. And then that typically has been, historically anyway, enough for the COG to do their budget, you know, to understand the budget in relationship to the scope.
I think just a little bit more detail as it relates to the project budget, the total project hours we want to see as part of the budget, the hours allocated by task, and then also the staff that would be assigned to the project as well, along with their key titles. And
Correct.
any sub-consultants that are part of your consulting team.
Exactly. So it's a breakout across individuals who will support the project all across the line. I do want to draw your attention to another piece of the proposal that typically gets underlooked, but will be important to help expedite the contracting side of this, should your firm be fortunate enough to win this RFP. As you'll note in the package, there is a Word document. It's set up and tracking changes. It's our standard consulting agreement. And it's there for you to redline and ink up with changes that your firm would need or require or comments. Again, we take this very seriously because it helps expedite the process. So that's part of the submission package. And we would anticipate or expect that you would include that with your proposal.
One quick thing to note with the contract markups is that is not included as part of the 20-page maximum for the proposal, along with references and resumes.
Correct. So you have a full 20 pages for your scope of work, schedule, and budget, which we hope will suffice to tell your story about how you'll be able to support this project. Oh, two folks have raised their hand. Let's see. Are you not seeing them?
They're up there. To the left.
Left. Oh, there you are. Let's go with Roger first, and then we'll go to Aaron afterwards. Roger?
Yep, Roger Palayo with Tool Design. Wondering if you could elaborate a little bit more on the community engagement, specifically to task 4.2. If staff would be supporting those events, cost for materials, anything else you could provide.
Good question. I think it's a little bit open about exactly what your support would be or could be. Community engagement is an important or integral part of this project. We are envisioning community engagement to include, if you will, what we call sort of experiential events, which I would hope be augmented by some sort of informational or educational kinds of activities about this project. So it's kind of an immersive, if you will, here's the LTN and oh, here's this project. And so we leave it to you to kind of define what and how much of your scope and budget you can sort of bring to bear to support that. when we think of community engagement here at the COG, typically we think of our cities first, okay? So communities and then sort of the process of engaging communities often takes place in support of commission meetings, okay? Where these kinds of concerns, opportunities, if you will, would be brought, to the public's attention. So that's one level. And then there, of course, is the sort of more broadly speaking engagement piece at the public level as well. We hope and encourage you to be creative in that sense. These are, if you will, these could be big asks for any particular community to figure out how to do this stuff and to come up with a solution that's tenable for all concerned. Does that help you or answer some of your
I have
questions?
something to add.
Oh, Shannon, go ahead.
To that as well. So we are envisioning two sizes of community events for task 4.1. The first is the smaller micromobility pop-up events. We envision these being able to plug into an existing community, a planned existing community event. And so those are a bit smaller scale. The larger community-wide micromobility events, I think that those are opportunities to draw perhaps a larger crowd focusing on mobility, micromobility options, and to really focus a bit more on education. I think where the COG could provide support for the planning of these events is participating or coordinating with the local cities to identify some potential locations for the event, or if there's any a calendar of existing events that the cities might have. And then we could also provide some support on logistics as well.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you for distinguishing those two types of events, which again are called out in the RFP. Does that level of detail help you a little bit there, Roger?
Yes, thank you.
Fantastic. Aaron, back to you.
Anybody else had this issue, but I wasn't able to access one of the documents listed in the RFP, the scoring rubric. I just might want to check that out.
Oh, okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
If it's,
Yeah.
we will either repost it or make it work.
Yeah, it seems to be saved as like a Excel template. It's like XLSB or something like that.
Oh, well, that's just an update. So we will save it as an updated format and then repost it for you to look at. Thank you for bringing that to our attention.
I had two questions.
Sure, go ahead.
The first being right-of-way impacts. So I understand the concept of the project or to date has been within the existing right-of-way. Is the intention that some of the solutions to, close the gap also be within the city and county whatever right-of-way?
Was everybody able to hear our question? Okay. It's a good question. I think the RFP describes and what we found is existing conditions. It's a big challenge. I think it's safe to say. I think I think it's important that we see solutions in the right of way. But we are also open to anything creative that you might come up with that would sort of support, again, connectivity or to be able to bridge those gaps that we have. In terms of the ultimate solution and sort of how this would ultimately be constructed, we encourage you, however you come to whatever kind of creative or ideas, they all have to fit under the rubric, if you will, of supporting a Measure M application for our cities. So I'm afraid I can't be any more detailed than that. Okay.
My second question
Sure.
is about the policy recommendations. Is this at the COG level or at each of these city levels, we're expecting changes to municipal codes and general plan amendments, or what's the?
That's another good question. Again, thinking through this, we would encourage you to be as create policy recommendations that touch on the sort of the touch on the process in order to expedite or to complete a Measure M agreement. So typically, that would support the COG process for approving Measure M applications. We vet, if you will, or we take in Measure M applications every year. We have a cycle for doing this. In fact, we're in the middle of it right now. Those go to the Metro Board for programming, for funds to be programmed. And then from there, they go back to the cities for funding agreements. And within the city though, staff need to be supported or at least have a rationale for moving forward. Often they go to commissions and or council to approve their funding agreements. So that's a long way of describing the process and hopefully a full policy recommendation that would come out of this, your work. Does that help?
I think also from a policy recommendation standpoint, really focusing on that local level implementation that might be needed. So whether that is looking at policies to promote this type of infrastructure within the city and things like that are some additional recommendations that we're looking for.
Exactly. So I hope that was helpful. That clarification was helpful as well. Fantastic. Other questions that you might have, or as you cogitate upon this morning?
Maybe I'll ask another question.
Sure.
So maybe this goes hand in hand with the right of way answer, but from a sequence perspective, environmental perspective, you should assume that this is something that's exempt or because we're not taking any right of way, and this is all from we're within the city right of way.
I'm not sure I follow your question exactly.
It's assumed that there's no, because we're staying within disturbed area, that there's not an environmental component that we should.
Yes, so there's we didn't mention this, but there are no CEQA implications attached to this planning exercise. Okay. And happy to entertain any questions today that you might have. To reiterate, as you consider the RFP materials and you do think of things, we ask that you post your questions at info@southbaycities.org. In the subject line, please put questions Caltrans RFP. That will direct them to our staff. Questions will be answered and then posted back to our website as soon as possible and no later than the 10th. I love it when things magically appear. That's great. All right. I know you are all very, very busy. We've been at it now for about 36 minutes by my count. And we appreciate the time that you've spent with us today. We want to encourage you, if there are no more questions, to propose. Have at it. We think this is very exciting work. We're very excited that it's somehow touched you and your interests, and your portfolios, respective portfolios, and we will very much look forward to getting your proposals at 4 o'clock on the 21st. That's a Friday. Again, if there are any questions or concerns, please make sure to send them to info@southbaycities.org. Questions, Caltrans RFP. I'll give it another 30 seconds here or so. I could do a stand-up routine right about now, but this reminds me of when COVID first hit and there was these great pauses and gaps that felt like they needed to be filled. Hearing none in the room, I want to thank you all once again. I appreciate your time, your energy, your interest and enthusiasm, and we will hopefully hear from you soon.
Thanks,
Have a
Aaron.
great
Thank you so
day.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Take care.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Yeah.
Thank you for making the time to come in person as well.
I always enjoy person interactions.